All right, it's 7 o'clock. We're going to proceed. November 23, 2020. This meeting is being held via Zoom teleconference and is being recorded. I wish to acknowledge that this meeting is taking place on the unceded territory of the Coast Salish peoples. Tamtmewaitin, or Belcara, is home to an ancestral village of the Tsleil-Waututh Nation. We are thankful to conduct our work within their territory. Before I proceed any further, could we get the full names of those participants? We have Deborah. Deborah, is this Deborah Struck, possibly? Could you change your name or instruct us to change your name? Add your last name. And we know, well, Peter's iPhone, that's Peter Clark. So.
Clark. It's Peter Clark, it is.
Okay, maybe Paul can change that to Peter Clark.
Yeah.
And we just need Deborah's name changed when she gets a moment. See, before we, I'd like to call to order the regular council meeting of November 23, 2020. And before I proceed any further, I have a public statement that I would like to make. Our village has an obligation to provide a safe and respectful workplace for our employees. While we welcome feedback, this should be respectful and treat our staff as each of us would want to be treated in public. Any potentially defamatory public comments about any employee of our village should not and will not be tolerated. It's contrary to the respectful work environment our council is committed to maintaining and which our staff both expect and depend upon. Unlike elected officials, staff are not in a position to defend themselves in a public forum. And for that reason, concerns are best submitted in private to council members and or our CAO. Any comments from the gallery directed at staff and considered by the chair to be defamatory will be grounds for that person to be ejected without further warning from the meeting. Okay, I hope you all understand that. And on that note, we'll just carry on with number 2. The next item is the approval of the agenda. Lorna will outline a clerical correction on 5.2.
Yes, Your Worship, when we get to 5.2, I will just show on the bylaw that there is a word that should be deleted and it's a clerical error, so it wouldn't create a rewrite of the bylaw, but I'll just point it out when we get to that point.
Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you. 2.1, regular council meeting November 23. Will someone move to approve the agenda?
I'll move it.
Lena? And is there a seconder?
Bruce seconds. He just raised his hand. Bruce, you're on mute.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carried. Number 3, the next item is the adoption of the council meeting minutes from October 26, 2020. Would someone move this item? Bruce Drake. Is there a seconder? Marlena Clark. All in favor?
Just before we go to in favor, there was an update that I gave on Metro Vancouver here, but he's just saying that I gave an update on the water committee, and I just want to point it out that it was on the board, on the main board, because up until then I had not had any meeting with the water committee. So it's just a minor correction. Is that clear? Okay.
We'll make that change, Your Worship.
Thank you.
Okay, that's great.
So I'll move it as modified.
As modified. And all in favor?
Aye.
No
Aye.
oppositions. Motion carried. Number 4, delegations. We have no items. Number 5, reports. At this time, I would like to ask Ken Bjortgaard, financial consultant, to outline the next report. This is under item 5.1.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Paula, were you going to show it on the screen? Right, so this is the third quarter budget variance report that shows the actual results to September 30th, 2020 and projects results to the end of the year in comparison to budget. If we'll just scroll down a bit, Paula. First of all, there's detailed appendices A, B, C, and D, which provide more detail as to the budget projections or actual projections within the general water, ward, and capital areas. It should be noted that the general projections in particular don't include any provision for the COVID-19 Safe Restart Grant for local government, which was recently received in the amount of $380,000 by the village. These funds are waiting the details of what we can actually use them for. On a broad perspective right now, they include loss of revenues, emergency opening of operations, and other expenditures related to COVID. But to be safe, we've got a list of things that we think will qualify ongoing, but before we actually go to use some of the $380,000 for any of those things, we would be checking with the ministry to make sure these things qualify so that we don't run into a problem down the road. So with that proviso, I'll give you a summary overview of the budget projections in the various funds. If you would scroll down, please, Paula. First of all, if we can go to the summary of Appendix A up above, please. So here's the general operating fund. You can see that revenues are expected to be up by about $16,000 or 1.2%. Expenses are going to be up by, projected to be up by $36,000 or 3.2%, for a net negative variance of 19,800 or 7.6%. And this negative variance is projected to result in a less funds available for transfer to reserves and surplus. In the budget, we had a projected transfer of $260,000, and the estimated year-end transfer would be about $240,000. As I say, this does not include any offsetting COVID grant funds. If you would scroll down, please, Paula. So in the water area, the revenues are expected to be very close to budget, just a minus 0.8% variance. But the expenses are projected to be up about $16,000 to $17,000 or 7.7%. And that is in large part due to increased water usage and the resulting water fees that are paid based on usage that are set by Metro Vancouver and collected by the District of North Vancouver. So in the water fund, again, you're seeing a negative bottom line balance available for transfer. We had budgeted to transfer 64,000. It's projected we would only be transferring 46,000 to reserve and surplus for a negative $18,000 variance or a minus 28% variance. And again, that's related to water usage. I want to scroll down to the summary of Appendix C, please, Paula. So in the ward operating fund, you can see there are some negative impacts as well, particularly as you can see, expenses are projected to be up $18,000 or 16.8%. And that's extra costs for contracted hauling of waste and recyclables. I understand that garbage pickup and cardboard pickup is now happening twice a month as opposed to 1 month, which was in the budget. So that is the major cause of that overage and expenses. So as you can see in the ward operating area, we had projected to transfer $13,000 to reserves, but as a result of the increased costs for hauling, we are projected that we'll need to transfer approximately $4,900 from surplus to balance at year end. So there's a negative $18,000 variance from going from a transfer projected to reserve from a transfer from surplus that is now projected to occur. So if we go down, the final area of the budget projections is related to capital. And as you can see, there's 3 categories of capital expenditures: general capital, water capital, and ward capital. And as you can see, general capital is predicted to be well underspent by $267,000. And water capital is expected to be well underspent by 3.8 million. And of course, the water area, of course, was based on a new water reservoir, which of course didn't materialize and won't materialize in 2020. So the bottom line in capital is that instead of having to transfer reserve funds to fund certain capital projects, that won't be needed. And those funds can stay in reserve and be accounted for in terms of future capital spending. So there are some budget pressures that are being experienced, but the COVID relief grant is expected, particularly in the general fund, to offset those pressures, and is a welcome contribution from the provincial government. So I would be happy to address any questions if council had them.
Okay, thank you. That's great. Bruce, do you have any comments?
Yes, I do. Thank you. First, I'll just say that the Zoom system seems to be operating a little differently than I'm accustomed to, but that's fine. As long as I'm audible, I think I'm happy. So thank you, Ken. I had a couple of points. First, just a general comment. The COVID funding. I'd just like to make the point that I think we should be very prudent in use of that. And I also suggest, and I'm sure you'll be well positioned to guide us, that we should do what we can to ensure we can legitimately meet the conditions set by the province, but where we can use it to offset dollars and thereby save operating dollars. In our case, that would be a prudent course of action in my mind. Another way of saying that is within a year or two, I'd like to see that the funds that we're able to displace funds that we can hold in reserve that are not don't require reporting against the province. So that's just a comment generally. Secondly, I had a question about on the water system. I do recall when we spoke about the water system recently, and I appreciate it's not a financial issue, but this fact that we're running up a particularly higher than expected bill for water is consistent with the cautionary note that we got from the Water Committee that there was some concern that we might in fact have leakage in the system because our growth in use was well beyond our addition of additional users. So just an observation that this would be consistent with that concern that was expressed by the Water Committee. And finally, I'd be interested in knowing if we have any additional comments to make around the estimate on hauling, because with respect to ward, because that's quite a distinction and quite a change, I guess, over the last few years. the increased amount of takeaway charges. So I'm not sure how much that is a reflection of increased fees and how much it's a reflection of increased volume from us. Thank you.
Carolina, did you have any comments? Oh, I'm sorry, Ken.
I think Ken, yeah, Ken was gonna.
I'll let Ken respond. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think that Stuart may have some input in terms of the hauling. I would ask if he had any specific information in terms of the hauling.
Thank you, Ken. Starting probably in about June, the bins were getting full and consistently getting full to the point where we had to make a decision to bring in some extra truckloads to take away. So right now, like I said, we've always been getting the compost being taken away once a week. And the other two bins in the past were getting taken away once a month. And now they're getting taken away once every 2 weeks. So yes, there's some, there's a lot of costs associated with the extra deliveries. And the team that we've got are kind of looking into all the charges, trying to get clarification on that. Lorna and myself and you are working on it. And but other than that, we don't have much choice right now about the added delivery costs, just because those bins are getting full.
If I might follow up through the chair.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. Yeah, and through the chair. So Stuart, what you're saying is there is an increased volume of recyclables being brought, organics and garbage being brought to the village site, to the ward to drop off. Is that correct?
That's right. We've doubled up on the deliveries, the takeaways for the solid waste and the recyclables. So now those are being picked up once every 2 weeks as opposed to once a month. So that's a significant increase when you're talking about just the cost per tonnage and the delivery cost itself.
Okay, so it's not an increase in fees then, I take it. So there, for whatever reason, residents are producing substantially more material to be hauled away.
That's correct. And whether you want to attribute some of that to COVID, I'm not sure. Everybody's staying at home right now and doing a lot of cleaning constantly. But there was a noticeable increase in the amount of waste that's being brought to the ward. Yes.
Yeah, I just add, I have no objection to paying to remove it. I mean, I think it's a great service. I just think it would be interesting to know, to be clear as to why it's happening. And it seems if it's doubled, I mean, that's a staggering increase. If it's just a matter that we were, close to requiring this before, and we've had a modest increase that's pushed us to that level, it's another matter. I appreciate it's a bit of an art to know how often to haul it. But I'm not suggesting we try to restrict the amount. Everything that's hauled away from that location, from the village, saves much more expensive individual trips.
Carolina, would you have anything to add?
Yeah, just to Bruce's comments, I do think it's, there's more people just staying around at home. We have a lot of snowbirds in the village that, they usually live 6 months out of the year. So I think that's a big thing as well. Plus, not as many people are eating out, right? The kids, there's a long time that the kids didn't go to school, so that all creates more garbage, in my opinion, as well. I'll leave it at that for now.
Thank you. I just had a couple little comments, very tiny, Ken. So with this COVID grant, which we are very grateful for, I need to thank the province for that. So all the items the expenditures that we've had, will you be able to remove them from our regular operating expenses and attribute them to COVID so that they can be line items in that? And same with the projected one that just jumped out at me, and it's not really a big one, but on page 1, under the third item, penalties and interest on our on taxes, where we decreased our taxes, the penalties from 10% to 5%. Can we recoup the 5% that we gave up because of COVID? Because that's why we did it. Can we recoup that and put that as a line? Well, I'm just thinking of ways of using that grant.
Yeah,
I like
yeah.
it. That's, sounds
So
like an honor.
if I may respond, currently that one is on the list, Madam Mayor. The loss of penalty revenue is on our COVID claim list. And we are looking at every expense and every revenue and isolating potential COVID impacts. And right now the list is longer, should I say? And actually the one that was just mentioned around increased hauling costs should even be on the list as well. The thing is, we can create a longer list, and as I say, the longer the better, I think. But before we actually claim anything, we will be verifying with the ministry so that we are within the confines of the grant.
Great, thank you very much. Sorry about this. Do we have any questions from the gallery? Oh, just a second here. But nobody with their hands up. All righty. So no further discussion. All in favor?
We need a mover and seconder, Your
Oh,
Worship.
I'm sorry.
Seconder, are we gonna talk, so this is it for your presentation, Ken? Or we're gonna talk about the other pages? Are you
No,
basically?
this is 5.1.
Yeah, 5.1.
The whole thing.
Okay, so I do have one more question.
Okay.
Here, purchases, purchase. Okay, so on page 7, the 7 out of 9, on water purchases and delivery, here on your note, Ken, it says increased water usage purchase costs and increased infrastructure costs from the District of North Vancouver. Do we have any details on what this increased infrastructure costs from the District of North Vancouver is? Because this is, again, is a significant increase, right, on 44.2%. So it's
Right,
just
so
went up, or it's just a separate charge? Thank you.
So there's two components to the water charges. One is the infrastructure costs that the District of North Vancouver has to maintain and upgrade and the infrastructure for water delivery. And so we budgeted, I think, approximately $22,000. And then we got a bill for $27,000 from the North Vancouver for, and that's what's the base infrastructure charge for the water, right? So that is mainly based on their projections of what it costs to replace that infrastructure as well. So it unexpectedly went up. And then the other component, of course, is, as we say, we pay a rate per cubic meter for water that comes across and is used in the village of Belcarra, and that usage has went up substantially in 2020. Now, I know that, you know, there's various things being investigated in regards to the water usage, but one of the things that I think I have discussed with the CAO is in terms of Belcarra Regional Park, right now, Metro Vancouver has, of course, paid a buy-in to come into the water system for the park. And we have to address the ongoing usage at Belcarra Park in terms of reaching a agreement with Metro Vancouver on recovery of usage of water costs and the delivery costs for water at the park. So that's an item that I think that needs to be addressed. There is a meter in place, I understand, at Belcarra Regional Park, and that meter can be read. So we do know the water usage there. it doesn't seem substantial at this point, but we have to get more details around that. And I think as we get more details around that, we have to enter into discussions with Metro Vancouver, as I say, to at least have them pay for the water usage and infrastructure related to the park.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah, that's a good idea. All right, thank you. And in the other comment, there is an item here on page 9. It says stairs improvement at $8,500. Project needs to be investigated. I keep on seeing this popping up every budget season when there's a motion to not do any improvement on those stairs. If I'm correct, I think it's the stairs, Lisa, that you had on your motion about a year ago on Marine. Is that correct? And if so, why is this still on the budget?
Maybe I could just ask Stuart if he has any comments on that, the stair improvements.
Can I, sorry, can I just interrupt one moment? I made a mistake and I should have actually moved the motion before discussion. Should we do that first before we do any further discussion? Lorna, can you?
Sure, just
Okay.
have a mover and seconder. You're
Yeah.
Can we
welcome.
just- It moved by Bruce and seconded by Carolina. And any further discussion? I apologize for that blunder.
All right.
And Your Worship, I would actually speak to those stairs. They have just been left in this budget. You know, they weren't taken out during the last budget discussions. And I think it's something that will come up in the new budget discussions when the new council is in place. And that's just part of the bigger discussion of what will take place on Marine Avenue also.
Okay. Okay, thanks, Lorna. And another question, this chip bin, what that is, what is that? It's a 2,000, again, page 9 of 9. It's a $2,425. Project needs to be investigated.
Again, I think Stuart has some details around the chip bin. Do you, Stuart?
Yeah, once again, that's going to be subject matter for our next council meeting when we do the 2021 budget. But I suppose on that particular issue, I can, you know, when you come in and you see a whole bunch of budget lines, you tend not to want to delete a whole bunch of stuff that you may or may not think is irrelevant, right? But on the chip bin, I can safely say that that one will be eliminated, but it'll probably be replaced with something else.
But we don't know what it is then. Sorry, did I miss it?
Well, we have a chipper and we have a chip bin here in the Public Works yard.
Okay. Okay, thank you. All right, I guess that's it for me. I guess we're kind of limited at this point to just asking questions, and we can get in and delete some items, I guess, when we start talking about the budget. Yeah, it's just this stairs improvement thing that this bothers me because we did have conversations about it. But I guess, yes, you're right, it was never deleted from the budget. Thank you. Thank you for your report, Stuart. And just as a point too, I'm very grateful for the grant we got. You know, it's always a challenge for small municipalities with no commercial tax base as us, and no potential, really not really a big potential to grow as other municipalities around us. So I'm really, really grateful that we got this grant. So big thank you to the minister about that. So thank you.
Yes, and thank you, Ken, for your quarterly report.
Okay, thank you.
So no further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, motion carried. Thank you, Ken, once again. Lorna will outline the next report, which is 5.2. Lorna?
Yes, Your Worship, Council passed a motion on June 8th asking that the fees for sprinkler heads be removed from the fees and charges bylaw. And so the draft bylaw attached that I've made that minor amendment to. So 2A says by removing, taking the word adding out, is to remove that those charges from the fees and charges bylaw.
Thank you. Will someone move this item?
So moved.
Bruce? Second by Carolina. Any discussion by council?
So-
Aye.
Yes, sorry.
Bruce?
Go ahead, Bruce.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Lorna. A quick question on this one. And as I flagged earlier, I do have a question about the connection fee, because this deals with specifically putting in sprinklers. But if someone were to add sprinklers, and I appreciate it's a hypothetical case, if a resident who is not obliged to connect to the water system nonetheless puts in a sprinkler system and requires a connection to our water distribution network to power that, I'd like to be sure we're not going to charge any fee for that connection. I appreciate it's a very unusual circumstance, and I say the numbers are probably perilously small, but to be consistent that we not place any hindrance in the development of these, I'd just like to be sure that this process will include inspection fees on any case where it's not a connection for domestic use.
Yes, I did contact the building inspector today just to
Yeah.
get clarification on that. And the cost of an application is $116. So if you like, we could take the bylaw back and bring it back with that fee removed also, if you'd like.
Yeah, that's what I would like to see done, just because it is consistent with the motion we passed, that we not apply any costs to property owners that they wouldn't otherwise face if they weren't putting in a sprinkler system. So you'd pay the same amount if you're connecting and adding a sprinkler system as if you were connecting for domestic use. But if you're not connecting for domestic use, we wouldn't charge a fee. Yeah, so I will move that then that we table this for now and it come back to a subsequent meeting.
Okay, thank you.
So I'll second the amended motion, but just before that, under 1 and 2 on the second page of this item A, by adding, removing. So I guess we're gonna delete the adding and just keep the removing.
That's correct, yes.
That's typo,
Your
right?
worship.
Okay. Okay, so just for the gallery to make it clear. So it's on page 2 and there's item 1 and there's item 2. A, by adding, removing the following language from Schedule 2A. So we should have read by removing the following schedule, the following language from.
And that'll be fixed when it comes back, your worship. So you now have a motion to table, which you can't discuss. It's
Oh, all right. So I guess the motion, all right. So we'll
Motion
vote.
table. So that would be all in favor of tabling the motion?
Aye.
Okay, carried. That'll be brought back, so there's no reading till now. Lorna will outline the next report, 5.3.
yes, your worship. As per council request, and I think it's a good request that the agenda be posted on Thursdays at noon. An amendment needed to be made to the procedure bylaw. So the amendment is that reports will need to be in to my office by noon on Tuesday. And that will give us time to produce the agenda package and have it to council and post it on the website by Thursday afternoon.
I'll gladly move this item before discussion.
Will someone move this item?
I'll move it.
Second.
And discussion by council.
Yes, so if I may start, a little hands up. So first I'd like to thank Deputy Mayor Lisa Wilder for that. This is something that that council has spoke about in the past. And so I'm glad to see this motion on the table today. I really am. That just for clarity, like it's good for the residents because it gives them one extra day during the week to read the agendas if the agendas are going to be posted on Thursday. But it's also very good for council. So if council is going through the agendas and we have to call someone, either Lorna or to ask for some explanation on other organs of government, it's it gives us an extra day during the week to do that, which is great. So I'm very glad. Thank you. And yeah, I will gladly support that.
Andres?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, first, thank you for the effort to put this together. I just want to be clear. I mean, there's never any free lunch. So I'll predict the next complaint will be that someone wanted to file by Wednesday and they can't because they missed the Tuesday deadline. And that's just how life is. I'd like to hear from Lorna as to whether this produces any time pressures that are a significant problem for her. I appreciate preparing these sorts of agendas and getting everything out is a thankless task at the best of times. Backing up a day, I guess, gives you a little more time. You're not getting any more time to prepare the material because it has to go out 24 hours earlier. You simply will be dealing with material that it gets submitted a day earlier, and then we'll have the agenda out a day earlier. So the benefit is really just an additional day for people to scrutinize the agenda. Am I correct?
That's correct, through the chair to Councillor Drake. But generally, we know well enough in advance. We have a plan. We know the reports that are coming up and when they're scheduled within a couple of meetings. So I just think if we stick to the deadline, that's my big thing, is that if we move it to the Tuesday deadline, that people have to recognize that. But if we're scheduling things really well, overall, that shouldn't be a problem.
Thank you. And my comment on this is that it's just pushing everything up one day or backing everything up one day. Because right now our deadline's Wednesday for Friday publication. So now we're Tuesday for Thursday publication. It gives us a full business day to deal with staff if we need to, or other people in the village or whatever. And then we're not spending our entire weekend going through. Sorry. All right. So any comment from the gallery? None seen. I'm going to ask all in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, motion carried. And Lorna, thank you. You will outline the next report 5.4.
Yes, Your Worship. I am pleased to bring forward the 2021 council meeting schedule. And you will note on the schedule, we have added the dates for the by-election and for the inaugural council meeting. We are still, just so you know, we're awaiting a ministerial order. Our chief election officer has been in touch a few times with the ministry. As you know, they have not made cabinet appointments yet. So the province is going through a few situations of their own. However, I believe these dates, unless something unforeseen happens, these dates will be firm. And of course, again, when there is a full new council, these dates may always be subject to change as required.
Thank you very much. Will someone move this item, please?
Move.
Carolina, and second,
Second.
Bruce. Any discussion by council?
Yes, I just have a question. So Lorna, usually every year is around 20 meetings I counted here. Is that correct?
I don't count the meetings. It's just schedule them every month.
Okay.
Yeah, it's usually 2 a month in general, except for August and December.
But yet here we have a meeting scheduled for December 6th.
One
Oh,
meeting.
we
in
usually
December.
have a meeting in December. Mhm. We have
Okay,
one-
it's one meeting in December and no meeting in August, I guess then.
That's correct. Mhm.
Okay.
Of course, you can always have special council meetings if you need them. Mhm.
Yeah, and if we need, we can add more meetings. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Any questions from the gallery? All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, motion carried. Stuart, will you outline the next report, please? 5.5.
Thank you, Your Worship. Invasive Species Council of BC report. We actually have some good news to report this year. There's been a reduction in knotweed and orange hawkweed in the village of Belcarra this year, which I'm happy to report. They did 6 treatments and actually, that was only for the April treatment. So they usually do 2 different treatments, one early in the season and one later in the season. So in this year, there was no need to do the second treatment. And that's basically half of what we had last year. So that's good. And that's really all I have to report on this. They advised or gave us a recommendation that somebody from an employee from the village take a course for actually the pesticide course to actually do the treatments themselves. And other than that, there was one area off of Marine Drive where there was some knotweed that was too close to the high tide water line for them to actually treat. They never said whether it was actually removed or anything, so we'll have to check that out. That's all I have to report.
Thank you. Will someone move this item?
I'll move it.
Carolina. Second,
Second.
it's Bruce. Any discussion by council?
Yes, just a comment. So this is something that, invasive species, that's something that the tree committee spoke in length about it. So I'll be sending this report to them in case one of them missed. And yes, I actually like that idea. That's the first time I hear that idea of training a staff to be able to do this around the village. I guess this is this is a good idea. So yes, so we'll see where that takes us.
Can
yeah.
certainly send it to the tree committee, your worship.
Oh, sorry. Oh, it was sent?
Sure,
Staff-
we will.
Oh,
Staff will send it.
Thank you, Lorna. Thank you, Lorna. Yeah, that would be very helpful. Thank you. So those are my comments for now. I know there's when we have the policy on the trees and all that, that's something that the committee, had passed some recommendations to council as well. So I'm glad to see a document like this. And I'm glad to see that that they have always partnered up with Belcara. I've seen them here every year doing things like that, and not just here, but around the park, around the whole park. By thermal plant, they do the same thing in some spots as well. It's Woodhaven, you name it. So I'm happy to see this. Thank you.
Bruce.
Yes, thank you. Just an observation. When looking at the maps, which are quite helpful, it's pretty obvious that there's very likely just been natural spread from a set of locations. But living on Turtle Head, I'm quite taken with the fact that we have one spot on Turtle Head, and I'm just wondering if anyone, and maybe nobody does know, but does anyone know, was this ever something that people used domestically, that people purposely planted this plant? Because it just seems odd to me that we've ended up with this one plant on Turtle Head, which I and my Dachshund investigate regularly when we're out for a walk, but it's all by itself.
You don't dig it up and pull the roots out?
No, I stay away from it now, having read this.
Put a plastic bag over it and dig it out? No?
Yeah,
Um,
I take the silence to mean there is no one knows. Oh, hang on, sorry. Deborah's made a comment I see on text.
Yes, she says yes. It is sold in garden centers. So it's
Okay.
it's someone did plant somewhere.
knotweed?
It's Japanese knotweed was known as an ornamental plant because it is quite pretty. So it is sold, and it's one of those ones that just should be banned flat out.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Deborah.
You're welcome.
And just to add a comment to Deborah's comments, there was also one of the recommendations from the tree committee was to bring a motion to UBCM to keep those species out of our shelves in garden centers. So I think that's a good try. I don't know if it would pass, but it would. It's a good try for sure for UBCM 2021.
Maybe we should send the report to our garden centers.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the gallery? Nope. Okay, so all in favor
Hi.
and none opposed, motion carried. Number 6, reports from mayor and council committee representatives. Do any council members have anything to report on? Councillor Clark.
Yes. So first, I would just like to some updates of what I've been up to for the past few weeks. First, on November 7th, council attended. It was myself, Deputy Mayor Wilder, as well as Councillor Drake. We attended a very good forum on systemic racism on November 7th that Metro Vancouver hosted. And that was through Zoom. That was very informative and very good. Also, I had a board meeting at the end of at the end of October, where we passed the budget that I did give some update on our last council meeting. I won't get into again. And also, I would like to let everybody know, so Christmas ships, we're at that time of the year again, Christmas ships, yay. One of my favorite things about living in Belcarra is to see them out of my windows. So just to give people, I know sometimes it's hard to find the dates online, but I would just like to say to people, so the Christmas ships are going to be doing their route around Belcarra on December 5th, 12th, 18th, and 19th. And that would be from 7 to 9 p.m. That's what it is usually every year. You might see them also on other dates, but those are the dates that is scheduled to go either around Bedwell Bay or Deep Cove. So they're going to be highly visible on the 5th, December 5th, 12th, 18th, and 19th from 7 to 9 p.m. Also, I would like to touch on a subject. I've been asked by a number of residents for the past few weeks if Belcarra is coming up with a bylaw to start charging cutting trees in private residence. I know there is a lot of people that are scared about this right now. There are certainly some rumors going around that that's what this council intends to do. Although I guess a council of 3 will not be making that decision, so we're going to wait for a new mayor and a new council before we talk about this tree bylaw again. That's I guess that's what I heard in the past few weeks. But I do want to make clear one thing. There was a written bylaw that came from staff twice that this council has turned down, sent it back to staff for review. I heard from Deputy Mayor Wilder back then, and also as well as Councillor Bruce Drake, and also I made that very clear that I don't think is a good idea for us to start charging to cut trees in private property. We never had a problem all these years. That might be something that we will have to do in the future, but that's certainly not something that, at least not to my understanding, seeing how council voted on the previous 2 times that this came to the table, it's not my understanding that it's going to happen. So I just want to, I don't want everybody to go, oh, this is happening. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I had quite a few people coming to me asking that, and all of them were upset. So, and I see some people around cutting the trees in their properties and saying, no, we're cutting because we know you guys are going to charge at some point for us to do this. That's not the case. To me, this is just a rumor. And I just wanted to make that clear. If you see the history of how council voted on that, it was voted down. So I just wanted to put this out there.
Thank you. So I guess you can,
And those are my comments.
that can be under your tree committee report then.
Tree committee report. And just one more comment. I would like again to thank you, Lisa, you a lot, because I know you've taken a lot on your plate. We all have, like the 3 of us have. So I really appreciate, it's a council of 3 right now. Obviously there's extra work for everybody as well as staff. Thank you, staff, for going along with this. It's been a hard few weeks and very, very busy for the 3 of us as well as staff. So I hope people out there are a bit more patient with us, because there is a lot going on right now, and we're trying to. That's why I think. Also, I would like to point it out. That's why I think it's important for us to go ahead with the elections in the safest way possible, obviously, and following guidelines. People can still vote via mail, if you don't want to come to the village hall to vote. But yeah, so thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you, Lorna. Thanks, everybody. So yeah, those are my comments for now. That's my update. Thank you.
Bruce.
Good, thank you. Yeah, I'd certainly second Carolina's comment with respect to the seminar offered by Metro Vancouver. By far the best seminar I've ever participated in that they've offered. So pretty exceptional piece of work and very impactful. Secondly, I just want to report for any who have been following it that the concept that I brought forward and discussed previously of monitored alarm systems within the village and the encouragement of those is something I do intend to address the moment we have a full council. So I intend to, I'm still have the intention of seeking a process by which we financially encourage individuals to have monitored systems within their homes, because I think it is a very important step in in reducing the risk of injury and death, and indeed of widespread fires. So just that, nothing more can be done really until we have a full council, because it's a fairly significant step and needs endorsement of the full council. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I vote third on that seminar that we attended at the Forum on Systemic Racism. Was just so moving. It was fantastic. And I wish everybody could have participated in it. I want to watch it again. I want to participate again. Dawn Babineau. Hi, Dawn.
Isn't this the part?
Oh, I'm sorry. Hang on one moment. I'm sorry.
Do you
This
want
was
to go through correspondence first, Your Worship?
Yes. Sorry, Dawn. I'm going to put you on the hold there for just a moment. This was just a report from council committee members and mayor. And we're going to go, there's no bylaws. And number 8 is correspondence. I will get to you first, Dawn. Don't you worry there. And 8, correspondence. We have 10 pieces of correspondence. Would someone move to receive these items, please?
So moved.
Second.
And seconded by Carolina. All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, motion carried. Out of the correspondence, there's one action item regarding the declaration of November 2020 as Adoption Awareness Month. So that was 8.1. Will someone move this item?
So moved.
Carolina?
Second.
And Bruce, any discussion by council? We're almost a little late. We're almost at the end of November.
Just made it. Yeah.
Yeah, just made it. All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, motion carried. Is there anything rising out of the information items council would like to discuss?
Yes, so if I may.
Yes,
So I
go
guess about the election on item 8.9, Deborah struck that she has some concerns about the election. I just spoke a little bit about it. I guess, like I said, it's being, it's good to have a full council, especially when we're going to start talking about the budget, and, following the guidelines and everything. I think this is something that needs to be done sooner rather than later. And I would say that anybody that would like to vote but feel uncomfortable to come to the village hall, please consider vote by mail. And also on item 8.8, it's a resident called Laurie Fraser. So this is, about parking, some concerns about parking. This is exactly what I was talking about during last meeting. In my view, I already made that clear, like, well, we wait. I wish we could have, proceed into give some relaxation either on the signs in front of these people's houses. I understand that there is a concern, listen, Belcarra is not busy enough and right now with visitors. So why do I have to put a pass on my windshield? And obviously it's concerns for people that are doing renovations and have their contractors. So I was wondering if, for people like that, what I would ask from staff, and I don't know if I can do this, but what I would ask from staff is to at least, if people are having renovations and there's some cars parked at the door, to just, at this time of the year when we don't have a lot of people coming into the village, I would just say to just be mindful. And I would hate to see some contractors' cars being ticketed if they're parked, if they are parked safely. Right? If they're parking unsafely, then that's another story. But I understand the concern, and I'm sorry, but that is still, in my view, also, I guess it is a big decision that, that council, majority of council prefers to wait for a full council to actually make a decision on this. But we're getting there. And that's all for my comments on the correspondence. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I just have a comment I want to bring up rising out of the information item, and again, is Deborah Struck's email. While I appreciate it, again, I think it's really important that we do come to full complement of council. I know there's a concern, there's not going to be enough time for campaigning. We've talked about this, and there's going to be lots of ways of doing this without having to go door to door and being COVID friendly. We can arrange a Zoom all candidate meeting. That can be coordinated through it with the village. We can have phone meetings. We can arrange those. We can have each candidate prepare a flyer with their contact information so that anybody can contact them directly. We can have those published in the Barnacle. We can have those listed on the website so that everybody has full access to the potential candidates. We can set up, I was looking at the hall, we was talking to Lorna at the back outside because it's covered. We can make that quite COVID friendly with 6 feet inside. Unfortunately, we can't, but outside we can. And we can probably have some kind of a meeting scheduled there. So I think that there are ways that we can do that. So I'm not too concerned about it, but I do appreciate Deborah's email for sure. And Lorna, just before I answer a couple of people that have their hands up, these information items are just for council to discuss. So do I take questions from the gallery on these items, or do I move forward?
It's up to you, Your Worship. They are just information items.
Yeah,
We
that's what I thought.
dealt with the action.
I think they can be dealt with under new business.
Sure.
Okay, so on that note, we're going to move on. Now we've received all those items. So now we're under new business. And I have, first of all, Don Babineau. He had his hand up first, and then I had to gently cut him off there. So Don, did you want to speak?
Yes, actually, when I put my hand up, it was at that part of the meeting where what I originally thought the idea was behind that section of the meeting, that was for you to provide updates on major initiatives. I appreciate the input that you provided, but there was no input provided on any major initiatives. Water is still a major initiative, is my understanding, but why was there no update on water?
Because all meetings are postponed right at the moment. Everything's suspended until we have a full council. So all committee meetings are suspended temporarily. And then once we have a new council, we have a new mayor, and then they'll decide if those committee meetings, how they're going to be moving forward from there. The staff doesn't have the time at all to deal with committee meetings at all between the by-elections and everything else that's going on. So that's why we want to have this by-election as early as possible. So
Okay.
we can, there are no reports to have because nobody's meeting.
But we're expecting a report from the engineer.
Yes, we were.
And so that just because we're in an election or waiting for an election to happen doesn't mean that we're not expecting to get the engineer's report on the water. So where's the engineer's report on the water?
You are correct. Why we don't have it, we don't really quite know. We asked the same questions. Lorna, can I put that one over to you?
Yes, I spoke with the engineer this week, and as you know, the large municipalities are having, COVID's having a major impact on them. And the District of North Van is one of those municipalities. They are working on the information that's needed by our engineer in order to bring that report forward. And major municipalities are working with a third of their staff at work, a third at home, and a third laid off. And so they are working pro bono to do this, put this information together for us, and we don't have it.
The District of North Vancouver piece is only one element, and there's many elements. If there's many elements involved to reporting back on 60, 90, and 120 liters worth of per second of water flow.
And it'll all come back at the same time.
And when is that projected?
As soon as possible.
So is you talking,
Fact, when North Vancouver, the District of North Vancouver is going to provide that information, the engineer is ready to do his report, but he hasn't got the vital information from the District of North Van.
okay, but there must be some estimate as to when we expect it. Are we expecting in 2 weeks, in 2 months? When are we expecting it?
I can keep saying this. I said 2 months ago in 2 weeks. And so I'll say again, 2 weeks, but I don't know.
We did really think we were going to have it for this council meeting, Dawn, and it just wasn't here. So
Well-
we are working under the constraints of the District of North Vancouver. And I apologize for that.
No, because it's
Can I
major-
comment through the chair?
Yes.
Thank you, Lisa. And Don, to you, the part of, I completely independent of how soon we get the report. Personally, I'm not going to be in favor of doing anything till we have a full council. But in addition, I want commentary and recommendations also from our water committee. And since it can't meet at the moment, when we get the report is not that urgent an issue to me. I mean, I'd like it to be a good report. Obviously, I'd like it to answer the questions we all want to have answered, but I'm still going to want to have input from the water committee, and that itself will be delayed until we're in a position to host its meetings.
What specifically have you asked of the water committee, Bruce?
I want them to have a look. They haven't had the report either from the engineer. They've had a number of very pertinent questions up to this point, and I would like to know what their thoughts are when we finally get the report from the engineer.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Can
Carolina?
comment through Don's comment. You know, I sympathize with the frustration because you know, that's something that I've asked quite a few weeks ago too. But just for the sake of clarity here, when you first asked your question, we are not waiting for a full council to get the report. We've been waiting for the report for a while now. And I guess what I'm hearing here from council and staff is that we are waiting on the District of North Vancouver due to COVID because there's less people working. I understand that. But that being said, I would make a comment. I would love to have this report as soon as we can, regardless of when new council is going to be in, because then at least we have some time, some weeks that the water committee members can read this through, and we can read this through and talk to people and all that. So I am really looking forward to this report, and I hope we get it sooner than later, honestly. And yeah, I'll leave it at that for now.
Okay. Great comments, Carolina. I feel that because this particular part of the meeting, it was council's responsibility to report on major initiatives, and there was nothing. And so that in itself sends a bit of a message in terms of the importance that you're putting on this. It would have been nice, instead of me having to ask, it would have been nice, because it is a major initiative that is on the table, that council would have said, hey, this is the update. We're having delays from North Vancouver, whatever the situation is. But instead of just nothing, it sends the wrong message to the people of the residents of Cara.
Well, I apologize then.
Yeah, I think, you know, Don, we could always have started this. It's not major initiatives. I think it's just, you know, it's reports from mayor and council, which means like we report on the last few things that we were doing for the past few weeks or whatnot. And you know, but yeah, I understand the frustration. I guess the next time we could start is, listen, everybody, before anybody asks, we don't have that report yet. You know, but we did talk about it last meeting, and we'll be talking about it for a while. So yeah, hopefully we'll see it soon.
I've got 2 other questions, but I've had enough time, so I'll
Thank
back
you.
off.
Thank you very much. I've got Deborah or Peter Struck waiting in the wings here.
Okay, let's get my camera. There we go. Okay, hi, it's me.
Hi,
Um,
Deborah.
Hi. I'll go into just with regards to the question to the committees. I'm curious, so if we're waiting on reports and things can't, my understanding is all the committees were to be finished December 31st. So if we're not allowed to do anything till after the election, so then the committees are void and Like, what's going to happen with that? That was the terms of reference, all the committee.
Reference December 31st.
Mhm.
Lorna?
Council, if you wish, we could always extend the terms of reference. Council may do that at any time they wish.
Yeah,
We
I'm
can have
certainly,
something
yeah, I'm
possibly on
certainly
the
in
next.
favor. Yeah, I'm certainly in favor of doing that.
I could bring that back to the next meeting, Your Worship.
Good.
Yeah, I would like that too. Yeah, that would be good.
Very good point, Deborah.
Okay, yeah.
At least if we can, yeah, I agree.
The work of the hardworking residents on some of those, it becomes null and void, and that would be a shame. So with regards to the election, thank you for addressing that. I don't have a problem with going to the hall, and I know that staff will make sure that everything is safe. I'm just thinking in terms of the time. I don't know who is planning on running, but I would hope there might be some newer people to the village. So then their access to people and getting to know who they are. If the first early voting day is advanced poll is January the 13th, and there's Christmas break, when would you foresee that there would be an all candidates? Would there only be one all candidates meeting? That's my first question with regards to that.
And I'm going to defer that one over to Lorna. She has the calendar with all the dates. Or so if we have to, there's the campaign period, which is January. I don't have that in front of me. Yes, I do.
Your Worship, we could work that out. It can be immediately following New Year's, that week after New Year's. We could work out a date for that. Absolutely.
It would be good because it would be advertised in the Barnacle and on the website, and information letter from the village to everybody.
Sure,
As
the
to-
week of January 4th, we're back at work.
There's never a Barnacle in January. December will be the last one until February.
All right, well, then it would be through the village office that'll send a letter to all the residents, and
And I know
perhaps
boxes maybe.
post it at the mailboxes. It could be a mail drop possibly, since we're more limited.
So then it would be from January the 1st, because the 13th is the advance poll. So it would only be 12 days prior to the initial voting. Is that correct, Lorna?
That's correct, but everyone has the Christmas period to campaign on their own if they like.
Right. Okay. And have many packets been picked up, or how do people do it this time?
They're welcome to get a hold of us. The ads have been in the Tri-City News and posted and sent out. And they just need to get a hold of us and make arrangements to come in and pick up the package.
Okay, and how many have been picked up? Or like, have we got one person that's deciding to run, or?
Okay, I'll tell you, none. They opened on Friday and we haven't had anybody in today, so we'll see what happens tomorrow.
Okay, so nobody has started to do that. Am I allowed to just say anybody that's on in the gallery? Let us know if you're planning on running. Just kidding. So, okay, thank you.
We'll work it out, Deborah, so it's going to be the as fair as possible for everybody.
Good.
So I'm just thinking, I think our new business kind of fell right into our public question period. So does the council have any new business to discuss? And Dawn, I'm going to get right back to you.
I do have a few questions, and we'll see if you raise a few new business from.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you hear me? Okay. So I'll see if I can do this here too, because I wasn't sure in which part of the meeting I could bring this up. So there is a report brought by Stuart on our last council meeting about Tatlow Tank. I looked over the report again, and I just have a couple of questions, if I may, to Stuart. Question number one being, are you guys looking into on how much it will cost to change the sensor? And question number 2, what is the practicality of manually filling up the tank to make sure that it's on a high level instead of on a low level? And that, through the chair, would be to Stuart.
Yeah, and so by sensor, I'm taking it that you're talking about the seismic sensor itself.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, I'm not in a rush to be fixing that. Just because as I outlined in that report, there are a lot of issues with justifying actually having it in use. But as I said, I want to work with WSP to actually have the valve function and have the sensor function independently, so that the sensor will not trip the valve automatically. So we're just working on some issues with WSP right now, and then provided that a budget gets approved in a few months, we may go that direction. What was the second question that you had, please?
In the meantime, while you work with WSP on this, which I guess you're referring to previous OPAs, right?
Yeah.
What about manually filling? So just making sure that that is at a high level if we need it.
Right now, the high setting is 95%. I think right now at this exact moment, we're at 80.7%, and it's on its way down. And it'll go down to 60%, which the mechanical altitude valve will kick in, and it'll start refilling again. And that was set originally, and it has been maintained like that. And it's like that in order to maintain the cleanliness of the water. That's the reason why it likes that. It needs a flushing motion. It needs to have that tank empty out a certain percent and then refill in order to keep that water clean. If it was at 95% the whole time, there wouldn't be enough circulation within that tank to keep the bacteria count down. And in addition to that circulation that we have from 60 to 95, we also have 1-inch lines going 24/7 at all the dead end points of our water distribution system. I'm going to turn this video off just because it's blanking out. But anyways, we are actually trying to modify the how we have the water running at the endpoints. We're actually trying to reduce that amount of water flow, and we're doing extra monitoring, weekly monitoring, to ensure that there's not bacteria growing. So we're trying to cut back on the amount of water that we're just dumping all the time just to keep the water clean. And the byproduct, or the secondary effect of that, is that it will, subtly keep the water in the tank for a longer period of time. In other words, we have 4 1-inch lines running 24/7. That's draining the water tank. If we cut that down by 50%, then the tank, there'll be a percentage of reduction in the tank emptying. So those are the things we're working on right now. Our water operators are not comfortable with bumping up the bottom end, the 60%. They're not comfortable with that. And there's some additional issues with that as well. Right now, the mechanical valve, it's like a bladder valve. It doesn't need power. It doesn't need anything to turn on and off. It turns off at 95%. It actually closes, I should say, at 60%, and then it starts to refill. We have a valve that we can activate via our phones. If there's a fire, right? We can bump it up to 80%, but that is actually just solenoids. It's not really a valve. It's a solenoid that tricks the valve. It's kind of hard. I don't want to go in too far with that, but it's actually not that reliable compared to the bomb-proof bladder style valve that we have cycling back and forth 24/7.
Okay, so I understand about the potability of the water. I guess, that's why the water system came anyways, is because
Yeah.
like we were worried, previous council was worried about the potability of the wells. So I totally get that, and I'm not even suggesting to mess with that. But I did hear you commenting right now, and please correct me if I'm wrong. So you're saying we don't want to be dumping a whole bunch of water. But if keeping the potability of the tank means dumping more water, personally, I would prefer to dump more water to keep the potability of the tank and the tank sitting at a higher level.
I think this is a bigger discussion, your worship.
Yeah.
Okay. My point here, I just wanted to make sure it is, so it's not safe to waste water and have a tank full, I guess. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure that to the best of our abilities, and obviously worrying first about the potability of the water, that we could keep somehow, even if it needs to be done manually, that we could keep that tank sitting at a higher level.
Okay, so I can imagine Stuart's still working on this then.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, thanks. Bruce, you've had your hand up.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate the question being raised. I do have a couple of points, and I certainly agree. This requires a good deal more time and very detailed review of this. And frankly, it's an example of the sort of thing I would like to see the water committee go through with staff and with our engineer as well. But first question, I guess, you refer to a solenoid, and through the chair, direct this to Stuart, that you refer to a solenoid. Stuart, is that something that was added after the Turtlehead fire, the solenoid capacity?
Yes, that solenoid was the valve system that we added to the system so that we could mechanically adjust highs and lows.
Yeah.
And there was an interpretation originally that low would be bumped up a lot higher with that solenoid. But it was never done because of the quality of the water. So it was always remained at its original low level, which was 60%. The low solenoid adjustment is at 55%. So it's below, so it ends up almost like a safety in actual fact, but it doesn't get used, it doesn't trigger, but it's actually the mechanical bladder valve that triggers the closure and the fill.
Okay, so the setting the solenoid, and again, I'll only ask a couple of questions and then suggest that we have this as a fulsome treatment. But again, as I say, I'd like the water committee to go through it. Where we are right now, though, there is a chance that we could have a fire event and have our water system as low as 60%. Is that correct?
65?
That is possible. Like I said, right now it's at 80%. It's on its way down. It takes hours and hours for it to go down. But as soon as there's a fire call, which we get over our phone, we turn the solenoid on up to 85%, 80% at least.
So well, okay. I mean, again, we'll get into more details later. I don't know why we wouldn't try to overflow the tank at the point we had a fire, but if we had a fire and if it happened to be below 80% and staff triggered it, we at least would benefit from inflow until such time as the firefighting began. So the fire flow started. So, I mean, that was my understanding of one thing we've done. So at least that's consistent. I had, and perhaps I misunderstood it, but at the time it was fairly clear description, I thought, to council, that we actually had set our lower level much higher. And I think you're describing that now. That was the solenoid setting. It never, in fact, became a practice to set it. So our cycling on the tank is, as you described, 95% at the peak, and then dropping to 60% at its lowest level. And so there in effect is no higher setting on the tank for its trigger level to begin refilling. I think you've made that quite clear. I don't understand.
Yes,
Sorry.
when I read that engineer's report, that's the way you originally interpreted it is exactly the same way I interpreted it as well. But when it came down to reality and I asked how things evolved, the water operators are adamant that it was never set above at a consistent level. You got to remember, it is not as it's not as reliable as the bladder valve. We've actually had air pockets in that solenoid, and it's bumped itself way up. It's knocked itself way out of kilter. So the bladder valve is the consistent valve that cycles up and down 24/7.
Okay, look, I'll stop there. I've got, many other questions, but they really belong in a discussion with people that are interested in the technical details. I'll only say that no matter what else we decide, we need to maximize our firefighting capacity with the tank that we have. And personally, I won't be happy with anything short of that unless we can demonstrate an impact on water quality. In any event, that's a topic for another discussion, and I appreciate it having been raised here, and accept the fact that working through the details of this is not going to happen tonight.
Thank you. Carolyn, do you have anything new to add for new business?
Sorry, I just have just one more comment. I guess, if we can dump the water more often or more water in order to keep the tank fuller, in order to keep the tank at a higher level and, safer firefighting as well for drinking, I would prefer to do that. But Bruce is right. It's a conversation for another day. And I'm glad that you guys are keeping on looking at this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, so that's we're out of new business, and we're going to carry on in the public question period. I'd like to ask the gallery if they have any questions on the agenda items for council. And if you do, please state your name and your address for the record. I have Bruce, your hand is up, or did I forget to lower?
Yep. No, it's there. It's there because I did have one other item of new business, and that has to do with, and it's really just a clarification, but we've had some very recent communication with respect to parking during winter, during snow conditions, and signage. I just wanted to flag that. I wanted to clarify, and I think Lorna has, that we will be sending out information to residents who may have concerns about parking during cold, icy, or snowy conditions in the village.
Great, thank you very
Correct.
much.
Yes, your worship, we'll be sending out there is a notice that is posted on the website, but we will send out notice within the next couple of days too about that.
Yeah, that's fine for tonight. I mean, we'll come back to the topic at our next meeting. That's fine.
Sure.
Fantastic. Okay, seeing no further hands. Going once. Oh, there's Don Babineau. He's back. Don.
Are we in new business?
Go ahead, Don. I can hear you. I can hear you.
Are we at new business?
We're past new business. We're in your public question period.
Public question. Okay.
That's okay.
Okay. OCP committee.
Yes.
There was to be election back in March because there were 6 people that had put their hand up to be on the OCP committee. And then, of course, COVID came along and messed things up. A lot of time has passed by, and I'm just wondering if it would make sense to contact the 6 people that had volunteered to be on that committee to see if they all want their names to stand. And if they do, great, then we're back in the same situation. I wouldn't be surprised if perhaps one of them may want to drop out because circumstances may have changed in 6 months, and then therefore that would not require an election, and we can get our OCP process underway. Thoughts?
Thank you. I'm just going to speak to this, and Lorna, please correct me if I'm wrong. Again, this is going to be waiting till the new mayor. He's the one who, he or she is the one who will set the committees. And but I think we had talked about opening it up again, and again we would contact those people and open it up, see if there's any other participants and whether they want to keep it at 5, and the new mayor may want to increase that number from 5 to 7 or 8 or 10.
Are you waiting for Nancy from Lorna?
Lorna?
That is correct, Your Worship, because all the committees are in flux right now. And I really think once the new council has their inaugural, that's the mayor that can start off that process. And again, they may want to open it up for new members because they haven't had a meeting. So, and as long as this COVID level restrictions occur, we won't be having any committee meetings in the near future. So maybe by January, things will change when the election is over.
Does that-
If the original, so has the decision in fact been made then that you're going to open it up, or why not go with the original 6 applicants and decide between those 6?
Well, I think we'll wait till we have a new council to make that decision.
Well, you have a quorum now. You can make those decisions now, can you not?
But they can't meet regardless. And we need to have an election because there were more applicants than the 5. And I'm not sure that the new council will even want to have elections for committees. That is very rare. It's the only place I've known that's ever done that. And council may want to use a different format for appointing committee members.
My question was, we have a quorum right now. Could council not make that decision to get the OCP committee going? And if it's necessary to have an election, why couldn't we coordinate that with the upcoming election so people could elect on the OCP committee members at the same time and take advantage of that opportunity?
I think Lorna's just really explained that already. It may be that we don't have an election for the OCP. We will take the appointments instead. And we are waiting. They can't hold a meeting anyway. The OCP can't even hold a meeting. There are going to be no committee meetings until after the by-election has happened. The staff doesn't have the time for it, and we just can't do it. So we've decided just to put it on the table. End of.
But I don't understand when you say you can't have a meeting. Council's been having a meeting all through this exercise, as has our. Like there's Zoom meetings, and the OCP could get together through Zoom meetings, and off they go. Like I
They
don't.
have to have the staff there. They have to have 2 of our staff members there, and the staff doesn't have the time right now. Not with this by-election going on.
It's a lot of work to put a by-election together.
Between the regular work, COVID, and the by-election, they just don't physically have the time, Dawn.
Hmm.
We wish they did, but they don't. So that's why we decided to put this in flux with the other committees, and then we'll have an extension. And like we say, this is the only place that has committees that went by way of an election. If it wasn't done by way of election, we would have had an OCP committee. So the new council might say, you know what, we don't want these elections on these committees. We want appointments. We want people that put their names forward, and it goes to council, and council will appoint who those people are at whatever the number they choose. Right now, the number is 5. There's been lots of discussion around that maybe 5's not enough for an OCP. So, and like you say, there's going to be some people that can't do it anymore, that wanted to, that can't for whatever reason. And maybe there's been enough chit chatter in the neighborhood that there's people now going, yes, I want to be on the committee. I'm going to put my name forward. So that's how we've left that. And January is not that far away.
No, I understand, but I do feel we've wasted time in that prior to the resignations, staff was too busy then, and there's no reason why people can't meet by Zoom. Businesses are doing it all the time. Governments are doing it all the time. There's no reason why an OCP committee couldn't have met prior. Now we've got the most recent reason as to why we can't get the OCP committee going, because we're having an election. Okay, well, I guess we'll see what happens then. I have one other question. Do you want me to hold that until my next turn?
Yes, would you mind? I've got somebody else on the board, but I'll come right back to you.
Certainly.
Put your hand back up, and then you're in the queue. Deborah Struck. Or Peter Struck.
It's me. Hi.
Mm.
The 6 people that applied, this isn't my main question. The 6 people that applied for the OCP applied by the date that was closing. Is that correct, Lorna? Like that was, there was
Yes.
okay, so basically they're there, but everything just got laid aside. I wanted to bring up something new, and this was probably a number of people saw this in the mailbox today, and I'm hoping that the council can take a stand to do with the Confucius Institute. It's backwards. And as a former school teacher and being totally aware of what this is all about, this is something that I don't know if council can take a stand and say that, yes, school district 43 should not be allowing the Confucius Institute in the schools. It is a program that's come in under the guise of a language program and teaching Mandarin, which all seems good and fine, but it's actually pushing the agenda of the Communist Party of China. So I would recommend that perhaps council takes and writes a letter to Carrie Palmer Isaac, our school district trustee, and others. Coquitlam School District is in a bit of a bind because of it, because they have relied on a lot of money from the Chinese government to run the program. And I think that's been one of the reasons why they've been reluctant to give it up. But a lot of countries and school districts, well, one country in particular, Sweden, has totally banned the Confucius Institute, and a lot of school districts across the world have banned it. So
Thank you. I haven't seen it myself, but I'll go to the mailbox and take a look at it. And I will contact Lorna and see what we can do on this.
Right,
Thank
we
you for
haven't
bringing-
received it yet either, but it may be there tomorrow. Thank you.
If you don't, Lorna, I can bring my.
Okay,
Thank you for bringing that up, Deborah.
thank you.
that's
Mhm.
pretty critical because they're,
I might have to give you a phone call on it.
yeah. Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
Don Babineau.
Hi, okay, so this should be an easy one. Road maintenance,
I'm sorry,
road maintenance,
road maintenance.
road maintenance.
Is Stuart listening?
He's here.
So on the shoulders on our road anyhow, the gravel on the edge of the road, it's dropping down in spots, 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inches, 4 inches down. And as a result, there's no support for the asphalt, and where people have to pass, it's a narrow road, the edge of the road is crumbling. I'd like to make a request to get some gravel put on the sides of the road where there has been this erosion of the gravel, so that it brings it up to the level of the asphalt once again, so that we can protect our crumbling roads.
Point.
Don, it's that, are you talking like all over? Are you talking Bedwell Bay or Belcarra Bay? Because I've seen quite a few places too that's happening, and I agree with you.
There's a lot of places, and our roads have been very poorly maintained, and by virtue of not even taking those basic steps, it's causing it to crumble even more, which is going to cost ultimately. So I don't understand why we're not taking just even the most basic precautionary measures to keep our roads somewhat intact. It just seems that we're not doing anything about it, and it's going to cost us more down the road.
I'll have Public Works look into it, Your Worship.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to add that I think it's also a bit of a safety issue in that because the roads are so darn narrow in some of these roads, that the only way you can pass or people can safely pass is if you go over onto the shoulder, and that causes this, the erosion again on the side of the road. But it caught my tires the other day. I drive a 1-ton truck, but it caught my tires the other day when I was going off and then back onto the road. And I could see for a smaller car that could really grab a smaller car, and it could really be a safety issue as well. In addition to, again, it's eroding our roads unnecessarily quicker than what they should be.
Yeah, Lorna will talk to Stuart about it. I'm wondering if the pavement can just go all the way to the rock, rather than, because that's what you're talking about, right? Why can't it be paved right up to the rock?
In some places we should, because that's the only way 2 cars can pass.
Yeah.
Just a comment on this. Yes, I completely agree. You know, I do, when I drive around Port Moody, for instance, you know, during the summer and during the spring, and that's something I have seen our guys doing here as well. Maybe not at the same extent that I've seen in Port Moody, but it's usually, you know, there's a truck pulled on the side of the road, two guys with a bucket full of whatever, asphalt or whatever, they fixing the holes and all that. I would like to see some more of that here. Quite frankly, it's you know, I agree with John when he says, you know, it's not just about, you know, the holes on the side of the road that is not being fixed. It's that will do, if it's not fixed on a timely manner, it will do more damage quicker. And you know, knowing that we have a big chunk here that's not MRN, I would like, when it's budget season, I would like, that's one thing I will request from council, is that we look into doing some more fixings around the roads that are not MRN as well. You know, and maybe have our staff fixing some more little potholes around. And I don't know, you know, what Stuart has to say about that, but it's something I see other municipalities do it all the time. I don't see why we can't do it here.
Lorna will discuss it with public.
Our roads need some more love, some more attention. And I do hear a lot of complaints, and that's why I'm bringing it up. I think, you know, I think whatever we can do to do a better job at this, and, you know, and give staff what they need to do, you know, to keep up with the roads more, I would love to discuss, especially when it comes to budget season.
We'll look into that for sure.
Yeah.
Is it possible?
And it'll tell us which bucket we can get the money from.
Is it an update to get, possible to get an update next meeting as to what discussions with Stuart, come from the discussions with Stuart?
Sure.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Don. All right, so I see no further hands. What are we getting into? Oops, oh, what happened there? I just lost everything. There we go. Is it, we have nobody else in the gallery, and no, oh, yes, I do. Deborah Struck. Deborah Struck. Oh, Peter Struck. Hi, Peter.
Hi. Well, I had a lot of trees down, so I'd like to talk about trees for a few minutes. And as you know, after the Ice Age, when the trees were wiped out and the First Nations were here, and after that, the explorers, and everything has worked perfectly well from the age of the Ice Age to now, with no tree bylaws on personal property. And once there were attempts to have any rules at all, or whatever, people have been wondering what kind of oppressive things the council might do at a moment's notice, and so a lot of trees are now down. So to have this fear of an oppressive council limited might be an idea for council to perhaps have a 10-year moratorium of absolutely no interference with people's personal trees. And then nobody needs to worry about cutting their trees down, so they won't be banned from it or charged ridiculous fees or whatever. And if in truth, council does not want to interfere with personal property, make your declaration lengthy and irrevocable, and everything will stabilize and go back to the way that it has been since the Ice Age.
Just a comment on that.
Well, and of course, the reason this happens, I have property in many different areas, whether it's Poco or Burnaby or Vancouver. The most hated and dreaded bylaw in every one of these places is the tree bylaw. Ask anybody who lives there, that is the most dreaded bylaw.
Yeah.
Thank you, Peter.
We don't need one for personal trees.
And you see, and I think that's why I hate when misinformation is going around, but I can't understand why, honestly. There is this rumor going around. But in order, because of this rumor, and because of the rumor, I guess people cut more trees in the past couple of months than they have in 5 years that I've been here. So really, like, I want to say it again, if I didn't make it clear enough, that's never something I will support, okay? On fees on private property, on cutting trees on private property. We don't need that yet in Belcarra. They might need it in other municipalities. I can see why they do it in other municipalities, but in Belcarra, that's not something I support, and I will fight against it big time. So, yeah.
There are 4 more elected people. It takes 3 to do anything you want. So people are still concerned about it.
Yeah, I don't think, at least I'm speaking for myself here, but given to what I see council doing and voting so far, I think we made ourselves clear a couple of times on that.
Well, I'm being a little bit satirical with what I'm saying, but still, still, if people don't have the fear of an oppressive bylaw coming in, things will settle down.
Yeah,
It
thanks.
might be an idea for other elected officials to make a statement as strong as Carolina's, and people would feel a bit more comfortable if others were saying the same thing.
Well, I myself, and I voted against that bylaw to have that in there. I didn't, I was quite clear that I was not in favor of having, we have lots of trees in Belcarra here. They don't need to cut your trees down. Or charge you to cut your trees down. That was not what the tree committee was about.
Yeah.
Bruce.
Yeah, just in response to Peter's point, I think the committee, so the council was pretty consistent on that. But your question really belongs to candidates, Peter, each time there's an election, because as you know, no council can bind a subsequent council, and elections have impacts. So I would just make a point of ensuring that the views of those who are running for council in the by-election and in subsequent elections, because that's probably your best guide as to where council's likely to come down. And no council can bind a subsequent council. You just don't have that power.
Good point.
Thank you. And I like your satire, by the way. I always have. All right, there being no further hands. Peter, did you have any final comment on that, or?
My final comment would be that considering how difficult it is to get people to nominate you for running for council or mayor, and with Christmas and COVID and all those sort of things, I still think that the cutoff date for putting your name in to run and the election date is too soon. And I realize it's a balance between needing a full council, but the other balance is there's probably going to be a very thin number of people running, and which could be wider, and also might be tilted towards a certain type of mentality of people who are more experienced. So I still think that according to Deborah's letter, you might want to consider moving the date forward, especially if you don't have too many applicants. And I guess shortly you'll see if there's going to be enough applicants. But a number of people I know who are interested are normally you would socialize and go out and talk to people in person, have coffee with them to see if they'd nominate you. And it's not so easily done with a phone call.
Appreciate the comment.
Okay.
We are still waiting for ministerial order as well, so we're all still dependent on that.
Okay, thanks very
All
much.
right, thank you very much for your comments. And I see no further hands. I'd like to, at this time, would someone move to adjourn?
So moved.
Carolina and Bruce Drake, and all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Good night.
8:43. Thank
Good
you
night.
very much, everybody, for joining.
Thank you.
Mayor.
And Lauren, I'll probably talk to you tomorrow sometime.
Talk to you tomorrow. Good night.
Okay, good night, everybody. Good
Bye-bye.
night.